Hello my friends, welcome back to today's video. I'm so glad to have you over here at Thuja today because I'm going to be talking about making do in the home when times are tough. Now, tough times could be anything from a very tight income to a husband losing his job. Regardless of the scenario, as homemakers, we have a great opportunity to make our husband's dollars stretch. I currently find myself in a situation such as this, and it's got me thinking about a lot of ways to pull back and make do. And so if you are in a similar situation, I hope today's video is a help to you. So for the last several years, I've actually been practicing the art of making do. And even though I've been practicing this for some years, we are now in a place where we really have to apply the art of making do. So I'm learning to stretch things again, to grow things, to make do, to be happy with what I have. There's an old word for that. It's called contentment. And living in this time and space, it's not something that we hear much of, is it? It's certainly not the favorite word of advertisers or influencers. And so this may be different because what I'm going to encourage you today is the same thing that I'm encouraging myself in, and that is to be content. There's a Bible verse that says, "Godliness with contentment is great gain." So that is something I am holding on to in these days of relearning and reapplying the art of making do during tough times. I wanted to share with you a few of the ways that we are making do in this current season of a tight budget. So the first thing that really has come around to me, and this was something that I have been doing for years, but it really became valuable to me during the season, and that happens to be shopping at Goodwill. Really, any charity shop that has good secondhand clothes will do, but I have several Goodwills near me that seem to carry a great variety of lightly used, barely used clothing. Especially this year, I was able to pick up some beautiful pieces for my spring and summer wardrobe from our local Goodwill. I got several new pieces, some of them with the tags still on, and I was able to furnish my spring and summer wardrobe for under $100, which is unheard of today. I mean, you can barely get 3 or 4 shirts at a TJ Maxx for under $100, and I got a lot of nice things. So that's a great way to stretch the dollar. Another thing that has really helped to stretch the budget during these types of seasons is to keep the grocery stops to a minimum. So I have a day that I grocery shop every week. I make my weekly grocery shop on a Monday, and at the beginning of every month, I stock up at Azure and Sam's Club, always staying within a certain budget. But if I keep the grocery stops to a minimum, and I make myself a good list, I am so much less prone to go over the grocery budget, which during certain seasons really just isn't a possibility anyway. I avoid midweek stops the best that I can. I utilize Aldi for most of our weekly groceries, and then if I need a specialty item here and there, I will stop at another store. But for the most part, the grocery stops are kept to a minimum, and that is really helpful on the pocketbook. Another way that has really helped us make do during the season is using up the dry goods in the pantry. For years, I have stocked up at Azure Standard, not overly stocked, but just a healthy supply of beans, rice, oatmeal, lentils, that kind of thing. And in order to cut the grocery budget a little bit during this season, I have kind of re-looked at recipes that utilize these dry goods, and it's really helpful. They stretch very easily, they keep you full, they're nutritious, and I have a ton on hand. And so I have shopped my own little pantry by using up the dry goods that I have stored in my pantry. The next thing that has been really helpful is regular garden harvests. Okay, so back in the day, every housewife had a little victory garden, and this was a great way for families to save money when times were tough. When we made our garden several years ago, it was more for the pleasure of gardening and the aesthetic. Obviously, we were looking forward to the food as well, but it was a different purpose. This year, where we are, the garden actually has helped save lots of money in the budget because we've shopped the garden for greens and herbs, tomatoes and cucumbers and squash and other things. And so really a great way to stretch your budget is to plant yourself a little victory garden. You can very easily put in spring, summer, and fall crops when the time is appropriate and save your family tons of money by shopping your own garden. You'd be surprised at how much money you can save by doing this. The next thing I want to say, and this has to do with the garden, but it's another element of helping to stretch during tough times, is to start your produce from seed. Now, it's going to be tempting to want to go ahead and buy transplants from the hardware store. And you could, it's not that expensive, but when you compare the price of a packet of seeds for the price of a transplant, there is quite a big difference. One transplant costs about the same amount as a package of seeds. You know, I have some packages of seeds that have lasted me years, and I get a lot out of them. And so a very frugal economic way to make your garden is by starting most things from seed. I will put a link in the description below of where you can learn about what time of year to plant your seeds. As many of you probably already know, you need to be one season ahead in terms of thinking if you're going to grow things from seeds. So I started a lot of my summer crops in the spring, in the house, under lights, in order to get those transplants ready for planting in early June. And so you kind of have to be thinking one step ahead, but it does save you money in the end to plant things from seeds. Another way to make do during tough times is to streamline your subscriptions. Oh, we live in the era of subscriptions, don't we? I know it all too well. When we first got the news that there would be a job loss in our family, I realized very quickly a lot of the subscriptions that we had, and we didn't have many, but I realized they had to go. There just wasn't going to be room in the budget. It got me thinking about how important it is to streamline the things that are bought every month on a subscription basis. One subscription that really makes sense for us is Amazon Prime, because I do a monthly household haul from them every month where I get shampoo, toothpaste, floss, that kind of thing. And so that subscription makes sense for us because we enjoy the programs on Amazon Prime. We enjoy the free shipping. And so we have kept that. A lot of the other ones, some of the little frivolous things, we've actually let go of. Another way to pull back or make do during tight times is to utilize cheap or free activities. I have found some of my absolute favorite things to do on my own or with my family are free. I love to take walks. We love to go to the park. We like to make our own food at home. And then we love to go to thrift stores or antique shops. These are things that don't cost a lot of money or are free. During tight times, it doesn't mean you can't have fun or you can't enjoy yourself, but things like simple treasures found at an antique store or a brisk walk through the park can do a world of good for anyone, really, but especially those of us on a tight budget. And they're cheap or free. Imagine that. Another way that you can make do as a homemaker living on a budget is to make your own cleaning products. Similar to skincare, I have found cleaning products to be extremely effective but very affordable. I made a video months back about my method for cleaning the house using peroxide vinegar and Norwex cleaning rags. I also add in there the Scotch green sponges. But all these items are very affordable. Most of the things you can buy very easily at Sam's Club, with the exception of the Norwex. I don't sell Norwex, nor am I endorsed by them, but I have found their microfiber cloths to be superior when it comes to cleaning. And so I just continue to use them. And so those are my favorite ways to clean the house. Obviously, I have a vacuum cleaner and a duster, but beyond that, my cleaning products are very affordable. And so I would encourage you to look into those few products to clean your house as well if you are in a tight spot. And next, in order to help scale back when times are tough, is to keep a careful eye on who or what influences you. We live in the era of influencers. We have to be so careful as homemakers who are home and we have time and we have kind of a way to dictate our own schedule. We really need to be careful about not falling into traps of influence that can lead us down a path that's just not good for us and influences us to buy things we don't need or can't afford. We must be on guard against unhelpful and money-sucking influences. Our pocketbooks will be better for it. And so that's just one way I'm trying to really guard myself during this season. I'm keeping a careful watch on who I am learning from, what I am listening to, and what I allow to influence me. Okay, and finally, the most important part of how to make do when times are tough would be to ask God for help. This is something I think of often because when the budget is tight, we have to remember that every good and perfect gift is from above and that we mustn't become stingy even though money may be tight. That's the last thing we would want to do as Christian homemakers, is to pull back and hold on to these gifts that are given to us to share with others. Obviously, we need to be wise, but we don't want to be stingy because we do not serve a stingy God and we want to be like him. We serve the most generous God who owns it all. Psalm 50:10-12 says, "For every beast of the forest is mine, the cattle on 1,000 hills. I know all the birds of the hills, and all that moves in the field is mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell you, for the world and its fullness are mine." Christ knows what we need, and he is happy to provide it. In essence, what I have learned, and I am continuing to learn, is that if we seek to make a God-glorifying budget, we must ask the owner of all things for help first. He is faithful to help his children, and we can trust him for help with our budget. All right, friends, that is all I have for you today. I hope this was a help to you if you are a homemaker and you have recently come upon tough times or you are working with a tight budget. Be encouraged. Your work at home is not in vain, and you can do so many good things to help stretch your husband's dollar and build up your home at home by putting to practice some of these principles. I hope that they were an encouragement to you. So I look forward to seeing you in another brand new video very soon. And I thank you again so much for watching. God bless you and yours. Goodbye for now.